Okay. Hey, everyone. My name is Ellie.
And I'm Tara.
And welcome back to another 180 Shift podcast. If you haven't checked out or seen any of our social media, check us out at 180 Shift, as well as our website at 180shift.org. Okay, Tara, how have you been doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good. Tired. Long day of work.
Yes.
Babysitting kids today, so,
And you lost your voice
Yeah, almost.
from babysitting kids.
Yeah.
But you weren't screaming at them.
No. I think it's like it has more to do with just a lot of other stuff. I'm gonna lose my voice.
Yeah, I hear that. It's like it's been so windy, it's messing us all up. But we have a wonderful guest today.
It's looking behind him. Nobody's there.
It's you.
Oh, okay.
So this is Jeff.
Hi, my name's Jeff.
Just
Jeff Michalski.
My name's Jeff. Yes.
So, how are you doing today, Jeff?
The drive was very long,
I'm sorry.
very hard,
Yeah.
and
Was it-
very stressful.
Oh.
But I'm here,
Well, the freeways in California are quite stressful.
especially at rush hour.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Yeah, they are.
Was it more
Yeah.
than 30 minutes?
Yeah, I left at 4:30.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Wow.
a while, guys, if you can do the math for there.
Yeah.
But, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeff?
What can I tell you about myself? I'm 72 years old. I'm an actor, improviser. I've been performing, teaching, in film, radio, television, movies, on stage mostly. And at this point in my life, I spend a lot of time in Europe, teaching, directing, performing. And I'm retired from the Screen Actors Guild, but I'll still do something if they ask me.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I have 2 kids, but they're not kids anymore. They're
Adults.
between 37 and 40.
Yeah.
And my wife, Jane Morris, still works in television and things. And
Yeah.
what, I don't know what to tell you. I'm
No.
a practicing artist, improviser, and I would say that and writer, but that probably describes me more than anything. If
Yeah.
there's any sort of description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The one thing I did know before you came onto the show, and we were talking about this just before we went live, is the fact that you were on Princess Diaries,
I was.
which is a really big thing because, like, for me, I love watching Princess Diaries. That was something that we watched, and I love Julie Andrews. She's amazing.
She was wonderful. She took very good care of me.
Oh, I really wish I could meet her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway's a G too, so yeah.
I prefer, you know what? I love Anne Hathaway, but I do love Julie Andrews because she is such an icon. She was in Sound of Music, and she was, she was just amazing.
She was the
Cultural
boss of the set.
She was.
In a good way. I mean, she would change the set and move
Tweak it.
flowers and
Yeah.
get everything perfect, make sure I was okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, cultural icon, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
All right,
yes.
Jeff, can you move your mic a bit closer so
Okay.
we can hear you so loudly like this is a smooth jazz channel?
All right.
Okay, do you want to start with our tradition? That
Yes, it's not a ritual.
Tradition, not a ritual.
we have? Okay, so we're gonna get the straw.
But see, that makes it ritualistic if you tell me exactly how to do it. Okay.
It's the other way.
Oh no,
There you go.
got a point there.
Okay, and then we're just gonna stab it. Okay?
Yes, exactly. You jab the point.
2, 3. Yeah, there you
Into
go.
the bowl.
All right.
See, amazing.
Yes.
This is my
Exactly.
dinner, you know.
Oh, you know what?
What?
Choking hazard. Watch out.
Okay.
No choking on the show.
No, we've had people choking in his chair. To be very careful, there are rice balls in the bottom of that drink.
Okay.
Well, it's tapioca.
Yes.
Well, I didn't get there yet.
Oh, you will.
Yeah.
You will.
Okay. Well, Jeff, why don't you
You know, I have a question.
Yes.
So you said you teach in Europe, right? What age group do you teach?
Any age group, but generally, I suppose you would say from 20 to 50.
most falling in like their 20s or most falling
I would
into
say
their
most of them
after
fall into
30s?
their late 20s,
Interesting.
early. Oh, there's a couple guys that now are getting big in Poland that are in their early 20s.
Early 20s, that's Gen Z.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Late 20s, that's millennial.
Yeah. Well, mostly I guess I deal with millennials. But nowadays, there's in Europe in particular, it's a very young person culture. Most everywhere.
And what does define young person culture?
That it's I don't know. All the boomers are dying. Anyway.
That's worldwide.
Yes. But I would say the governments are really focused on youth and on youth cultures. You see a lot of people with little kids. You see people actually, well, I guess this is I don't know if getting married is a thing anymore, but there's a it's more family oriented in some of the countries. England is more like us. They're in late stage capitalism and they're suffering from the effects of that as people find out that they're all being downsized.
Now, you said that there's a lot poured into young resources. Are we talking like education? Or?
Education, absolutely.
Like public education.
Public education, absolutely.
I see.
Big deal. Also, healthcare, everything. Also, they're not in debt the way the American students are because they didn't get exploited by banking systems and others to make some of the needs that human beings have too expensive to afford without going into debt.
Do you consider education a public utility?
Yes, I think it's a necessity.
But what about self-education?
Self-education is part of education.
But could it be all of it?
I suppose it could. It depends on what your particular culture is focusing on. So during the Industrial Revolution, we're going to be focusing on certain forms of engineering and manufacturing and things like that. So it would be up to your culture to give you the tools to deal with what your country or your culture needs.
What's your opinion on AI?
I think, my opinion on AI is...
how does it make you feel?
It's inevitable. It's not going to go away. I think that at first it's going to be monopolized the way that
that's already happening, right?
Yeah, the elites,
Team Grok.
That's right. So so they'll fail at it because just like the internet. I hate to say that because the internet can control, but people were able to get around the structures to do whatever they wanted to within the internet. Now, some of the big media giants have found ways to control your appetites, my appetites, what we're looking at, what to sell us, and they're the new sort of big brother, and they feed us product-wise, politics.
Through celebrities, or
no, through algorithms.
Yeah, algorithms.
Yeah. They're designed to, like, for instance,
that's AI.
I could just talk about, well, it's not what AI is going to be. So, for instance, I can just talk about diabetes and just open up my Facebook page, and I'm going to have 20 ads for drugs for diabetes.
What if you turn off the cookies?
Well, see, that's why you Gen Z people are way ahead of the game. But most of the things that you go to say we require cookies.
But you can hit reject.
Okay.
It's there. It's usually hidden.
Uh-huh.
But you don't have to consent to those cookies. Those nasty little cookies.
But they still can follow. They can follow what
Tracking,
Yeah, absolutely. Your YouTube feed
even if you're in incognito.
Your YouTube feed is going to represent a couple things that you looked up.
Yeah.
Pretty fast. Mm-hmm. And so, it's so AI is more of that at the moment because the people that control the big media ops are buying the AI licensing, or whatever they want to call it.
Whatever specific,
whatever area they're looking at.
Yeah, because anyone can go in and generate AI from coding, right? So then they just sell it.
Well, they restrict the type of access you have through their particular AI.
Yeah, like no nudity, no murder, no explicit images.
Yeah, or they'll have the murder AI channel.
Right?
Just like right now. That's if you look at.
I don't even want to go there.
Yeah,
it's too scary.
Well, you know what? So, I wanted to go a little bit back to maybe just your childhood and say, no. Well,
no. It's okay.
Okay. I wanted to know what.
Whoa.
That's a long time ago.
Well, I wanted to know what were your dreams and aspirations? Were they always to get into the career that you currently have?
Kind of.
Okay.
I did I went to a Catholic school, and they had you had to make a diorama of what you wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a Jewish comedian, even though I was a Catholic kid. So I would watch a guy named Alan King, who was on many of the big shows at that time, and he told mother-in-law jokes, and he made jokes in Yiddish, which I didn't understand, but I did understand timing. And I did understand that he had this power to make me laugh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at my diorama, I couldn't make a diorama of a stand-up Jewish comedian. So I bought a G.I. Joe doll and put the orange jumpsuit on it. I got a magic marker and made it brown and told the nuns I wanted to be a brother, which is a form of clergy. Not quite a priest. It's
like a monk.
Priest-like, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
love monks.
That was my lie then. I didn't want to be a
you know
monk.
What? Then I know you watched that show, but what exactly about it did you say that's what I want to be? I
think. Well, I grew up in a pretty, I don't know what you would call it. Dysfunctional family is the kind word. It's the soft word that we use now. Like when we say collateral damage, we're not talking about civilians getting blown to bits. We call it collateral damage. Yeah. So we create lots of nice words that allow us to not engage emotionally in and what's really happening. Right, so you can go down the line and all in the language that you guys are exposed to, and also what you guys create as well, to see that language is not so important. At least the meaning of language is not so important. So my dysfunctional family included a police officer. It was my father, who was a very abusive human being. Probably on the spectrum somewhere. And I was the rodeo clown in my family. So I was the person that distracted him through weird antics to make him chase me around so he wouldn't go after my mother or my siblings.
Yeah.
So I found out that entertaining people was a great way to
not
creating chaos and order. Was a good way to distract people from whatever things are on.
That kind of makes me think, I don't know if this is related, but as Gen Z, there's something, I've seen on social media where people say, I make jokes about, I have dark humor or whatever, as a way of coping with certain things. Have you seen that?
Have I seen that? What do you mean?
Well, is that something that you could relate to?
Absolutely. When I first time I walked on stage, I played my father on stage, and the audience laughed. And it was a catharsis for me. And I went, oh, I'm at home now. Here's some of these people in this group recognize what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So,
the fact is, it's okay to laugh.
It's important to laugh because you strip the power away.
Yeah.
When you laugh.
Power of emotional damage.
That's why some of what you would say your most in-depth political commentators are comedians.
Yeah.
Colbert, Jon Stewart,
Dave
Chappelle, Oliver. These guys are they're powerful.
Yeah.
And they can speak closer to truth than regular media outlets can, because regular media outlets are corporations.
And they tend to be more positive.
Well, on the news, this is an old saying, is that something, I forget what it's called, something sells, chaos sells.
Yeah, bad news. There's never any good news.
Yeah. So,
but when you laugh about it, it's like you're happy, you're joyful. Like what is the underlying message that's being, portrayed through the laughter is it's okay to laugh, it's okay to be happy and not always stress out about your problems and stress out about the things that we cannot change.
It's a catharsis too, though. It's that all these people recognize this.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah.
Right? So in closed cultures,
you mean like it's like an underlying mass communication that kind of happens like lizard brain?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not lizard brain. It's more of the. There is a lizard brain is what keeps us kind of closed off. So if we're living under fear or tension, or that anything we can say can be held against us in a
court of law,
in a punishable way, in a tactile, punishable way, then you're going to not express yourself. And you see that in Europe, for instance, in Poland, up until 1994, they're still a communist country, right? So you have people in their 50s now who grew up under a thing where they really couldn't express themselves. If they did, they were in danger. Their parents would go to prison. If your neighbor reported you and said that politically you said something like this, or you somehow insulted the state, which is supposed to be everybody but isn't, then you shut down what you say, or you go into art and learn ways to be able to express things that aren't readily recognizable by the powers that would punish you for thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Fly under the radar.
Yeah, in Poland it was movie posters were the big subversive art. So they would do artwork off of movie posters, and they'd have a big political or psychological message in the poster. And the powers that be, the censors, didn't recognize it. They just thought, oh, this is weird Polish art. Right?
Oh my gosh, that's what art is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Art is, we were just talking a minute ago, Emilio, about deconstruction. Deconstruction is the prime tool of music, of all art. Music, art, writing, comedy, it's all deconstruction. So deconstruction means you take something, a subject, and you take it apart to what it's supposed to be. So there was a media guy in the 60s named Marshall McLuhan, and he wrote a book called Media is the Message. Right? So in that, he would deconstruct technologies, and you always start with what does this technology enhance?
Yeah.
And so then you know why the culture accepts it, right? So if we talk about, let's say, marriage, we talk about what the highest aspiration of it is, right? And that's what we feed the culture. Mm-hmm. But then with any technology or any topic whatsoever, you can break it down into what does that make obsolete? What does the wheel make obsolete? And you can start seeing the effects on societies, on culture, by almost any device that you can imagine, like the microphone. Mm-hmm. What it makes it obsolete, then it's what does it retrieve from the past that once was obsolete? And that retrieval starts telling you its connection to culture throughout history. And the last thing is, what does it flip into that you didn't expect from that technology? For instance, cell phones, nobody expected, number one, that millennials, because we got to give them credit, that they would take that device, the phone device, and start using it in their own ways, or the computer in their own ways. So,
like how Mark Zuckerberg made Facebook.
That's right. But as far as the cell phone, the thing it was never imagined to be was a trigger for a bomb, for an improvised explosive device.
Wow.
Nobody that invented it, nobody that looked at the uses of it, would ever have thought, oh, that cell phone is going to be the thing that blows people up.
You know, I had one question prepared for you, and I wrote it on
Sorry
my
to go
arm.
so dark.
I wrote, do you feel more comfortable with digital or in-person communication?
Definitely in-person communication.
What about you, Ellie?
Oh, for me? Digital?
Like texting or calling?
Oh my goodness.
How do you feel when
You know
somebody
what?
calls you versus when they text you?
Okay. For me, when people call me, I get anxiety. But the thing is like, yeah, I get anxiety. But it's funny because now it's come to a point where, for one of the jobs I had to do, all I was doing is just calling people. So I've come to realize it's just something we have to do. But I do prefer in-person communication though, because when we're over texting, so much stuff can be taken out of context, and then I've had so many different relationships get
Dangly.
a little
But you know why? Because it's projection. When you use a media device, you are projecting who you think you are. That's why people get so caught up in identity issues. Is because they haven't had the opportunity to have a tactile relationship with other people or environments or anything. So yeah, maybe you remove the possibility of instant heartbreak or betrayal or whatever it is, but
there's also an obsolete part, right?
Yeah.
Which would be what?
Meeting people.
Meeting new people, talking to strangers.
Yeah,
dealing with strangers, right?
That's right. But it even gets where we're using that as an intimacy device as well, right? So just and I'm not involved in any of these things. I'm way too old for it. But online dating, where you're going through a swiping
Tinder,
this, swiping that.
Right.
You're really shopping.
There's other ones.
You're not meeting anybody. And so the people are actually selling you. They're advertising themselves. They're not telling you who they are. They're telling you who they hope you will like.
Or who they want to be.
Or who they want to be. Exactly. So
it's even from the angle of the camera, because if you take a photo like that, it's gonna look weird. It's still you though. But if you take then it's your eyes are all big. It's your wanted perception of yourself.
It's a projection. It literally
projection.
is a projection. And projection does not work as a communication device. It works in military situations, maybe, where you have that guy come in and go, I'm the boss and you obey all orders or whatever it is, because they're projecting power.
Right.
They're projecting power. And we're trying to project a sense of self when we don't have a sense of self because we have not put ourselves in a tactile world.
But what about situations where people met on Tinder and then they actually did get married?
How is that a big percentage of Tinder?
It's not.
That's a good question.
It's not very much. I know.
I'm gonna ask Rock.
I actually do know one couple who just this past couple week. That was a week or two ago, right? They met off Tinder and then they're getting married now. But that's very few though.
That's
very
probably
few.
Almost point. I don't know what the percentage is, but
right.
I would imagine it's 0 point something percent.
Right. Well,
I know people have met on video games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have heard that too.
And think about that. They have an avatar,
Yeah.
and their avatars are meeting. And
what's crazy is that an avatar is also so far removed from like who you actually are.
No, but did you know
like,
that young men are primarily on video games and they even are on like social media? Like women tend to flock towards like pictures and videos and all that stuff. But it's like young men are going towards the social media that's on like Call of Duty or, you know, I don't even know. Like
or something.
whatever. Yeah.
do you know, have you, fertility rates in the world are dropping.
They're at an all-time low. I
That's right.
have data to prove that.
And that's because of being basically contained in a virtual world. So in Japan, people are afraid to leave their rooms and meet people, right?
Yeah.
So these people worrying about some a group doing population control don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
Because we've done it to ourselves through technologies.
Right.
Okay, I just asked an AI actually, which is another one of these.
Hey, tell me what's going on with
like like we were talking about like how marriage is this like, you know, this culture, but AI is the new one, and there's you know, we already all know the negative of scary things about AI, but it said that according to different surveys, Tinder users have a 14% rate of people who met on there and are engaged in, and like married, like, or in a long-term relationship. So 14%.
That's a decent number, I suppose.
But then it goes on to, and this could be just, you know, false data, like you never know. But it says that basically, like, the main reason that no one is actually, like, getting into a long-term relationship on an app like Tinder is because it's, you know, the lifestyle is casual hookup culture and just instant pleasure and don't call me again. Don't make me leave my circle. I don't want kids. I don't want to get married. You know. Yeah.
Well, it's more than that. The economic things that we've put on, like, I always feel like I've betrayed my kids, my millennial kids, and because I was preparing them for a world that wasn't going to be.
What world was that?
A tactile, just what the worlds that you and maybe your grandparents grew up in.
Okay.
Right?
Did you think because it was like gonna cycle around again? Into
No, you just thought, what's here is going to be.
Right. You didn't know.
So manufacturing is not going to be. So of course you're going to lose manufacturing jobs. Right?
But I mean, what about the Jetsons? Didn't you like realize that eventually robots were going to be a thing?
Well, we had the predictions. We had Jetsons is that's an interesting one, but we thought there would be. They told us there'd be jetpacks in the future. That we
still
fly
no jetpacks. That's probably for the best.
And there are jetpacks, but yeah,
Flies into the floor.
Just run into each other up in the sky.
Yeah. Oh, the lawsuits! I can't even imagine.
Burn your foot when you're taking off.
Those lawsuits would be sky high.
But
no pun intended.
Oops, what's going on?
No, it's good.
It's fine. Just ignore it.
Okay. What's going on? Someone walked into the room. Okay. It's a human being.
Yes.
Right.
It's our wonderful tech person, Christian.
What we could already see was that parts of what we existed in were disappearing. We became a post-literate society.
Wait, I still read.
You
talking
do.
about me.
But you're an exception, right?
Yeah.
I'm also a mother. I became a mother at like 18.
That's right. So when you go, let's say when I ask my class, especially in the States, what book have they read for pleasure recently, or when was the last time they read a book for pleasure? Almost no hands go up.
Yeah.
So we became post-literate, but we're also post-industrial. We're postmodern. We're post-banking. We're post-everything. We just haven't post-finance. We just haven't figured it out yet. That there's what to do to replace that. Now people are talking about digital Bitcoin or something like that. Nobody even knows what that means. right? And the only people that are going to benefit from that are the people that own those farms or whatever they are.
Yeah, and then we all just work for them, right?
Yes. So, and we're already working for media. You work for, if you're on Facebook, you're working for Facebook.
Yep.
If you're on if you're on Instagram, you're working for Instagram.
That's why I
Or
never
TikTok.
understand why people like get the subscriptions to be like a premium member of like X or Instagram. So you have to pay like a subscription fee. It's like we already are like that's why they pay influencers.
Right.
They'll
Absolutely.
throw influencers a little money.
Right. So my kids were into music, and post-tactile music became hip-hop, rap. And not that these things are bad, but suddenly you don't need a drummer. You don't need the bass player. You don't need this. You are now in a world where your talents are not valued. Your tactile connection to an instrument is not. Right now, it's influencers that are becoming pop singers.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Although I don't know. I feel like I feel like the rap wave has kind of peaked.
Yeah.
Like, because it's going into this like hyper techno, like it's like super fast beat, but also like super high pitched.
But it's music you can do from your home
Right.
Yeah.
by
yeah.
yourself in a little screen.
But I think we're coming back into like analog stuff again. I really feel that way.
I don't think we will as in the commercial culture. I think that people will crave live events and crave connection and contact with people.
I think we should also ask like, what can AI do, and just not do that. Right? Like,
Wow.
Have you ever read William Gibson?
who?
No.
He's a sci-fi writer, but his science fiction is about branding,
Okay.
right? And so one of his books features a what do you call it? A hologram pop star who gets married to a real pop star. Right?
Wait, say that one more time.
A hologram, an invention, a corporate invention of what would be the perfect pop singer, is very well known, very famous, very maybe Taylor Swift without a body, and eventually, as a thing to further brand these two entities, one real, one not, they marry them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what happens?
Well,
Hologram babies.
There's a lot of murder. I can't go over through the whole book.
You're right, yeah.
But it becomes about connecting past to future in real time through emails.
Through emails.
Like we all have to revert back to emails?
No, that I can be contacted from the future through email, and even sent things like Bitcoin or other things to affect the future by the future connecting through technologies of the past.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah, but William Gibson is a great guy to read because his stuff is it's branding, commercialism, banking, finance. They're real life elements that imprison us. So in a way, we haven't woke up to it yet, but we're in a post-capitalist world where finance is not going to be related to any of the things that we thought capitalism was related to, or that we thought communism was related to, or any of these.
How so?
Well, just in the simple thing, we won't need labor very, very soon. Very soon. Corporations will not need labor. They only need people to sell to, not people to produce for them.
I don't know, though. I don't think that. I think that.
Don't you see it happening?
But an overconsumption of society like that. I mean, okay, like take an example of like what's happening with the streaming revolution. You have like Netflix and Disney just pushing out an overwhelmingly amount of content.
Yeah.
And Prime too. But then we see higher numbers on like YouTubers who are doing things from their house, and like that's not just limited to LA. That's like anywhere in the world you can create
That's true. But
it's like, why are more people choosing the one that's over here that's like just people? I think it's because humans are we're not just pigs. We're not just like consume. I think it's a mistake that's like, you know, kind of what the big major streaming platforms are doing. Now, again, they have classics.
All corporations call us consumers. All corporations call us consumers.
Well, yeah, like YouTube we're consumers for YouTube then, but like there's the creative aspect. There's the aspect that you can go on there and create something. And yes, we are working for like YouTube, but at the same time, there's like a give and a take, you know, and humans like to give. They, you know, it's like part of our human nature is to work, to give.
Right now, okay, let's take, I don't know, there's influencers, there's also groupings of people, the bro culture, for instance, on YouTube, who dominate YouTube, really, the UFC fighters and all this other stuff. The gamers, they are being paid by corporations to manufacture Discord or whatever else it is. They use the same elements that regular media uses. They just have no regulations on them whatsoever.
Yeah.
So the regulations are generally moral regulations like language or what content.
Political bias. Political bias?
Yeah, political bias and anything that you need to sell. And you don't have to. Here's one of the things that happened to media. And this is in the Reagan years. There used to be a thing where you had to give equal time to any political discussion that was on your air. So that whatever was said had to be immediately balanced by somebody else, another story. We privatized those mass media things. We allowed newspapers to own television networks. We used to lease airwaves for a year, right? Every year they had to reapply for that lease. And at a certain point, we just let them buy the bandwidths. So we privatized all that. So suddenly there was no regulation that had to do with free and fair speech. It just became whatever your corporate environment, whether it's Turner, ABC, Fox, or whoever ended up on top of the pile, needs to put out there.
Yeah. You suddenly just had like certain channels just talking about one specific.
That's right. And YouTube is in danger of that becoming,
well, YouTube has that. Like, if you try to put out if you make a political ad, you can post it. But let's say you want to like pay $30 and advertise it, and it'll stop you. Like,
good for them.
Yeah, it will, and it says you have to get a license, and you have to jump through these like kind of bureaucratic hoops in order to run a political ad. I'm sure the same, anything dealing with money, because they always want to know, like, oh, where's this money coming from? That's why you have to put, like, the paid for blah, 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 Newsom, whatever.
We also lost control of the political system when we made it when we did Citizen United and made it a pay-to-play thing. When we created lobbyists, when we did everything where money suddenly that you needed $50 million to run for your local congressional seat, to buy media, to do whatever it is you do. That was capitalism closing in on a political system. And it's not like I'm a communist or anything. I just see that when you ultimately go through a dog-eat-dog environment, you're going to end up with top dogs and nobody else. And that's where we are right now. But they will also disintegrate. Each of these institutions that we're talking about, whether they're politics, banking,
legacy
education,
media, like any media platform.
That's right. They will disintegrate because they cannot sustain that unless they totally imprison what they call their consumers, the things that keep them going. even systems that are no longer applicable.
No, I know you look at Disney, and it seems like Disney's always going to be, like king, right? Of like the general like film industry.
Well, they won't be.
No, but yeah, it's interesting though, because it seems like still most of their revenue, even though they're not the biggest dog in the streaming world still.
Right.
Like they're just not. And you can tell that they want to be, because they're constantly having to like run ads on other places, but it's like YouTube, they'll run YouTube ads. But it's like they're still not the biggest,
That's the big fear that's happening out there in I don't know, with the media sphere and any institutional, it doesn't matter if it's politics or whatever, they're no longer relevant or connected, again, to human beings. They're run through media, they're fed through media, they're fueled by money, and that's what it is now. Yeah,
and people want heart. And that's why I think AI seems to have kind of dominated the whole like techno beat like kind of music. Mm-hmm. So like we'll be, our AI senses are gonna like go up. Like I feel like eventually,
you mean you'll be able to recognize that this
I feel
is
like
AI.
Immediately, yeah. Whereas as they get sharper, we'll get sharper, and we'll be like, oh, that's like weird,
I don't see evidence of that. I see that at this point, until things really break down, people are hypnotized by their hungers. And so they're going to number one, they're going to be fed that by whatever media thing they're consuming, that your algorithm is just going to feed you everything that you're getting now and everything that you do. So that's the one end of it. But at another end, when it breaks down, then you'll go, what happened? What happened?
Like WALL-E.
Yeah.
Speaking of Disney. Yeah. Well, you're like super fat and you're like, what happened to me?
Engagement is your consciousness connection. You're engaging with other human beings is that's your freedom.
Mm-hmm. Right. Engaging with other people.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Now I want to know, how does this all affect the way that media is currently shaping up to be? How does this all affect comedy?
I don't know. I practice. Mm-hmm. So to me, Buddhism's a practice. I'm not saying I'm a Buddhist, but any belief system, ultimately, to be real, has to be an actual physical practice. Okay. It has to be a physical practice, and that's why Buddhism doesn't qualify as a religion, because it's a practice. But comedy also is a practice. Engagement in performance is a practice. It's not a mental construct. I actually have to do sensual, physical things to engage with other people. I have to see you. I have to say what I see. I have to hear you. I have to deconstruct what you're saying to me. I have to move with you. For that engagement to be real. We do it in very subtle ways. I do this, you nod your head, right? It's a connection, an agreement that we are connected physically.
And with texting, it's an emoji.
That's right.
So,
yeah. But so comedy is defined by, for me, how our behavior differs from our ideals. So we can make a proclamation and claim that we're this, we're that, we're LGBTQ, we're this, whatever it is that we've decided that this is going to
be our identity now.
Be our identity. But your behavior is what makes what you find the truth about yourself. It's not any identity that you're given. Let's say you're born, your parents baptize you, and they say, okay, you're a Catholic now, right? That's not your identity. That is something that's been imposed by you. And we have all sorts of cultural identities from the time that we're brought up that we get locked in. It's hard for us to break them. It's hard for us to take in something else, some other behavior or something. But it's how your behavior differs from your ideals that comedy lies.
Yeah. And it's interesting how it can like get in the way of your original beliefs,
Absolutely.
Like
you learn, you discover.
Well, like for example, there was this whole wave of feminism of like women have have a right to go out and work like outside the home. They don't have to be homemakers. They don't have to be mothers. But then like post-COVID, it's like a large chunk of those jobs that women have are remote jobs. So now they're just back in the house.
Yeah, no,
but they're
that's
still
irony.
in the eyes of feminism. It's irony, yeah.
Well, when people create new terms for identity, they're trying to break an old one, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's when anything gets codified, it becomes no longer relevant, right? So if that everything you need new discoveries, you need new growth, you need new connection all the time. So any labels that we put on others or they put on themselves or whatever, they're temporary. You cannot grow through life being one thing. You cannot be. Right? You
go crazy.
That's right. Motherhood changes you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So, and your connection to human beings changes because of motherhood.
Yeah. Getting into your mid-20s changes you. I'm like 24 now and everything feels different.
Yeah. You're a baby.
Like, it's crazy. No, it's been happening for a while.
24, I was doing comedy, but I had no idea if I was going to be able to continue doing it.
See, I like do this podcast. I work from home. I pick up little side jobs of teaching chess, and I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm just like doing the next thing in front of me.
Yeah, well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
It's and finding people that are engaged in the things that the chess world.
Yeah.
Is a bizarre world in itself.
You haven't seen Queen's Gambit? No, but, the thing that keeps me going, though, is really that it's God, because it's that sense of purpose, even though it seems like there is no purpose, Like, if I were to shut off communication with God, I'd be like, what is going on? But that's why I believe it's important to keep that dialogue going with God, because then suddenly it's a two-way street, and it's like, oh, I'm here. That's my purpose. Like, God made me wonderfully made, so I know that I have a right to be here and I can enjoy myself.
And where do you send your voice?
Where do I send my voice?
Yeah.
I speak it. I
send it out or you send it in?
Both. But then I know that there's an aspect of sending out and then it coming back inward. It's not just one-way communication. Yeah. It's like this. Like, yeah. I know it is.
Well, I don't know. For me, I don't know if I can connect it to an entity. I can connect it to an idea of spirit or an idea of that. And the most practical application is sending whatever that is, that plea internally. And not projecting out, not putting power somewhere else. If we're all kind of like whatever, I don't get in a big religious discussion, but if we're all part and parcel of one thing, that means it has to exist inside of us.
Yeah.
And so,
but it's an outward experience too, because like it is how I connect with other human beings, like easily is like, because I know that. Like God also views them the same way that he views me. So it's a necessary validation that we need from the Lord,
Okay. Now see that when we get into things like the Lord, then I think King James Bible, right? Who wrote the King James Bible? People that lived around the time of King James. Yeah. So then we get things like kings, hierarchies, lords that are now in our New Testament. And I go, how is that even possible? Where's the Aramaic? What were we referring to these things like that?
It was Yahweh. It was the original word.
So, yeah.
But
Yahweh.
But I mean, these royalty hierarchies that we now pass off as scripture weren't written they were written in the times that they were written. And of course, they're going to reflect the political and the cultural values of that time more than they would whatever you would assume the origins of something are.
Well, then you might as well just discount any history because it's all written by like the victors. It's his story.
Well,
Who
you
cares?
do.
Like,
well, you do.
Yeah, like,
You basically have to deconstruct everything, and including belief, your own belief system, my belief systems, any belief systems. You have to deconstruct them to see what the core elements are that keep you. That will resonate with you. Oh, I understand. If I take apart a watch, then it's those pieces, the wheels, and these are the things that start telling me what this was about.
But can I ask you a personal question?
I guess you have already. Go ahead.
Have you had a spiritual experience of any kind?
I have spiritual experiences every time I perform. Every day I have spiritual experiences.
That catharsis. That was kind of what you were explaining.
Catharsis is part of it, but also just the energy. Perhaps
something that does not have, these mechanics inside of it. It's something that...
Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes it's the feeling. I think love is a spiritual feeling.
Yeah.
So if I'm next to someone that I love and our heads are touching, I feel something.
Yeah, that's like the energy. Yeah, it's like energy vibes.
That's right.
Good vibes.
Yeah,
good
but
vibes only.
It's more than vibes to me. That is
Jesus.
Part and parcel of consciousness, of connection. People that you would say, let's say people that are of other belief systems, still have that spiritual human quality. So if it's... It may be that the religion they've been indoctrinated to has antisocial aspects to it, but those individuals themselves have to be of the same spiritual connection that I am. And I think if you read your New Testament, it even states that.
Yeah.
So...
it's also why the woke mind virus is so prominent,
Okay, see,
I think there are totally antisocial aspects to the woke mind virus.
But what does woke actually mean?
Well, it's that whole cultural movement of you're awake, we're awake to the racism, we're awake to the sexism. I think it started off with great common sense, and then it slowly evolved into something that just became completely illogical.
Yeah, but see, that's not the way. I've been around a long time. And I'm around a long time to see when language changes. Mm-hmm. So when Newt Gingrich was a politician in the Reagan years, and he actually took words that existed and changed the meaning of them. So, and just like Goering, the idea was if you say something long enough, then people are going to identify it as such.
That is so fetch.
Huh? Well,
Mean Girls joke. That is so fetch. That's just, it's like cool. It's like a word that was made up in this movie by Tina Fey. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. No, but it's basically reiterating what you're saying.
Right. And so, it doesn't matter if you agree or don't agree. It doesn't matter. It's just how we get manipulated through language. So a word like, and I'm going to take a word that you probably think is a dirty word, liberal, and go and then say to this that the term liberal, what does it mean?
Well, it means like free.
No.
Right?
It means...
A little too free. No,
the original meaning of it was to be tolerant. Tolerant, right? So, but then in Gingrich's time, he takes a number of these words to create a political statement and every time he says liberal, he goes, tax and spend liberal. Tax and spend liberal. Tax. So it's a way to indoctrinate and brainwash people to when they hear that word, now it's this. Mm-hmm. You take the word awesome. What does awesome mean?
Cool, great, wonderful.
No, that's what it means now. You in awe. How can a hamburger be awesome? How can it knock you to your knees and you fall down in front of it and go, I am in total awe. I don't understand this. It's so beautiful. It's so transcendent. So now we use awesome for everything.
Yeah.
And so we've taken away the value and meaning
The context,
of that word.
yeah.
Right, context.
It's interesting, though, with a word like tolerant, there's kind of a negative connotation to that, which is like, you don't necessarily want that person to be like that. You're just tolerating it.
Yes, and in a sense, it's part of what it is to be human. You are going to tolerate a kid's behavior to some extent because they're discovering. They don't know. They're discovering. They're going to make the mistakes that they mistake. You touch a pan, you burn your hand. Yeah. So you're going to learn things, and if we cover them too much and don't allow them experience, we're trapping them in a probably a very much like millennials. Now we're trapping them.
Yeah, like over. Well, and it's like, but what's that to me? Like, I don't tolerate my children making mistakes. I love them.
Of course you do.
But it's like love, in my opinion, it's God. It's like, how do you explain the root of love? It's God. Love is God. So, well, anyway, but anyway,
I won't contradict you. I just don't know.
Yeah. Well, another thing too is conservative. Look at the root word of conservative is to conserve.
That's
right.
right.
Not necessarily a bad thing.
And it's
kind of the same. Like your morals are
to conserve is a good notion. But the practice of conservatism is to be less tolerant of somebody else because you don't agree with them morally, or that in some way they infringe on your capability of accessing material.
Or maybe it's to conserve God-given values, like conserve tax money. That's a big one.
There's people that are conservatives that have nothing to do with God ever in their lives, and and cultures.
Well, I'm not talking about those people.
Cultures, and cultures that are conservative too, that either have a different beginning of what they've united on, and a sense of spirituality.
In fact, I'll say this. Conservatives without God are some of the worst conservatives I know. Yeah. Anyway, so.
but most of them will claim that they do have that, and that's just for window dressing, for how they enter into that thing. The hypocrisy is across the board. Okay?
Yeah. Well, talking about you mentioned some of the words and things like that. We've also had the rise of cancel culture, right? And I want to know how that has affected
me.
Your work. And
no, not at all. No, because nobody I know has been canceled. Louis C.K. was not canceled. Okay. He was a millionaire when he got supposedly canceled. He's still a millionaire. He still performs. There can be people cannot like your act. That's not canceling your culture, right? So I can't really think of anybody who's been cancel cultured.
I love what Dave Chappelle said, where he said, they tried to cancel me on Twitter, but I didn't care because Twitter's not a real place. That was funny.
Yeah, but that's another term that we've misappropriated. And I also think we've misappropriated woke, because I think part of your definition of woke is what somebody used as a label for other behavior. So if you deconstruct the word woke, it just means to become aware of certain things. So it's important for us to be aware.
Like new age thing of acceptance, and
but the new age thing is they apply that to new age, but that's not what new age is. Even most new agers I know are corporate capitalists. They are people that are selling commodities, and it has nothing to do with spirituality or anything else. It's just another market for consumers of spirituality.
You know what? I have another question for you along the
I'm a cynical guy.
Along the cancel culture lines. Has politics ruined comedy in any way?
No.
No?
No.
Because, what I have heard several people say, comedy isn't funny anymore.
Because a lot of it is not funny.
Okay. Well, expand on that.
There's this guy, I forget his name. He did kind of like Steve Martin, but I'm not going to say Steve Martin. I forget what his name was, but he's the big guy in comedy for a while. And he did these big arenas. And all he did was joke setups. That's all he did, was joke setups. And that became comedy for those people. So culturally, your sense of comedy is going to... George Carlin was a guy that some people will be familiar with. And he went from what you would call a silly comic to deconstructing big political and cultural things. He was still funny. He became more important, but he was still funny.
So are you saying that like different types of comedy have different like audience members or?
Yeah. Slapstick is different than.
What about like something that's universally funny to everybody?
I would say slapstick is one of those. But what is that? That's watching boom. Yeah, it's like expectations change, surprises happen.
Yeah.
So there's elements of comedy that exist in all comedy. Surprise is one of them. Right?
Yeah.
But the reason that comics become cultural critics is because they're trying to make sense of it. And you have to do the same thing you do with the McLuhan thing or with deconstruction. You first have to go, why do we have this? And when you start breaking open why you have this, you start seeing how the why you have this is different than how it's being enacted. And that's where the jokes come in. That's where the funny comes in.
Yeah. So kind of breaking barriers.
It's important for comics, artists of all things, to actually explore. They're not propagandists, most of them. There are comics that you would say are propagandists. They've found a little niche that they're in, and they're not going to change that. But artists are, by nature, people that are wanting to discover. And they're even wanting to be
discover
disproved.
The truth.
That's right.
But would you say that you could change... Could you turn someone into a Christian using comedy?
I don't know. I suppose if you practiced as a Christian, if you did the actual practice of love thy neighbor as thyself and do those things, yes.
Yeah.
But it has to be the practice. It can't be a declaration. It can't be a projection. It has to be a personal connection to another human being.
It's like laughter is almost intimate. You can have intimacy with a stranger with laughter, right?
That's right. And I would say that, did you ever see Life of Brian?
No.
Okay, well, it's a Monty Python movie.
Oh, well, I've seen Monty Python.
It's about a Christ figure, Brian, and his life. And in that, they deconstruct what that is, even in the parables and the loaves and fishes and things. And there's great comedy to be had in that. It's not a ridicule of Christ. It's an exploration of what if there was this other guy.
Is there any like modern groups that are as funny as Monty Python?
Yeah, sure there are. They're not famous, but they're mighty. You know, those things happen because a minority of individuals gets absorbed by the media. Right?
Handed the microphone.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of...
So you can't control that, basically.
There's some great comics, thinkers.
But you have to go seek them out. And,
You have to find them, and you have to, wherever they're at, and mostly you're going to see them live. You're not going to see them on YouTube. You're not going to see them presented in another media thing. You actually have to go out into the world. How do people discover that they're a good musician? They have to practice in front of other people. They have to do their performance live.
Yeah.
Right. They have to have that connection there.
Yeah, we're in such a crazy time right now. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of new artists popping off or like new shows, new comedians. I feel like a lot of us are kind of reverting back to old classics and, and then just like...
I mean, for me, I'm finding a lot of new
But
artists.
they are there.
On like... social media? Or?
Yeah, I find a bunch of like new up-and-coming artists who only have like 100 followers. Like,
see, that was
every week.
That was like how it was when I was 17, and it was like the SoundCloud rapper phase. But then we had these pop stars come out of SoundCloud. It was like these 100 followers, 60 followers on SoundCloud, and suddenly like they're getting 1,000 listens, and then suddenly they're pulled out. Like Cardi B was one of them. She was a SoundCloud rapper, you know, and then so then we got pop stars out of that, and now it's like SoundCloud is dead, it seems like.
There's also the thing of mass media. For instance, I can make a living with a tiny percentage of the audience, right?
Yeah.
I don't need everybody.
As long as they all like pay like $20 a month.
Well, that's
Right?
that's now you're talking about subscription world. But I just mean just out in the world itself, I don't need mass audiences to be successful. We've gotten to this mindset of numbers that it's the $8 million movie and it's this that makes something relevant. And the fact is most artists don't need that many people.
Yeah, and sometimes we're even seeing the algorithm choose low quality, even sometimes low resolution content and boosting it because it, you know, it thinks that.
Or you paid for it. You paid to get your content boosted.
Yeah, yeah. If it's too professional, it's like kind of, isn't it always a little like? Sometimes it's fine, you know, especially if it's like a nice camera shooting like a skit in an apartment. You know, I'll come across those. I think it's funny, and
you have to live life. You have to live life in a tactile fashion. You really, that's embracement of life is probably, I would say, a Christian fundamental.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right. And so
I agree with you.
When we take when we take ourselves out of living, of tactile human contact living, we're just
doomed.
Yeah, we're taking away what it is to be human.
Yeah.
And human doesn't mean perfect. Right?
Well, isn't this part of like, I mean, when I go on here, it's like, this is a tangible thing that I can do when I'm reading, you know, like, isn't that kind of, that's like being human, you know?
I suppose, but wouldn't it be nice to hear that voice?
Yeah.
Right.
And see the expression on that face?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I try to explain to like some, you know, of my friends. I'm just like, you know what? I love that we're talking, you're not really chatting on texting, whatever, but I want to see your face sometimes. I want to be able to hear your voice.
Yeah.
You know,
That's who you miss. You don't miss the text.
No,
the text is for your self-aggrandizement. Someone's paying attention to me, right? But they're not really paying attention to you. Now they have that commercial where the guy's at the pool and the AI is answering all his emails.
Yeah. See, I take all my in-person stuff for granted. I'm married and I have 2 kids. I like there's never a chance when I can like get online, you know. My in-person attention is always demanded, you know. So I don't know. But that's not necessarily common amongst people my age. That's kind of
you're
fairly
24.
unusual.
Yeah, that's right.
As the older I get, the more people are getting married. Like when I was 18, it was like nobody. But as the older I get, the more I'm like, okay, wait, these people have been dating for a while. Like,
wouldn't you agree that for people your age and older than you, that getting married's a commodity that they can't afford?
Yeah. Oh, and having kids. There's a completely, we do not, it's not like it was in the 1920s.
So that's not a moral thing. It's a systematic thing.
Maybe it was maybe the 1940s.
It's a systematic thing.
Yeah.
It's a system that that's working against that.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's not a demonic system. It's a economic system.
But it is dying. I know it's dying.
Yeah.
I know it's dying because I went to a club with my friend in downtown LA the other day near Hollywood. I was surrounded by 25-year-olds and they're all just like jiggling around. And I was like, I know that like all these women are definitely like, because they were all like the same weight too, and I was like, they're definitely all on birth control, most of them. They're definitely all like gonna hook up with some random stranger and never call them again. They're all drinking, but it felt like I was in the Wild West with like tumbleweeds coming by. Like the way this world is, like these people are like, these Gen Zers are trying to like participate in is so dead. They all hate it. They all hate that they're never gonna be called again, you know? They hate them. They on some level, they might even hate themselves for it, you know?
And I don't want to harp on this, but let's go back to that word woke a minute. And part of feminism was waking men up to the idea that this is a person and not some commodity I need to grab, get over on, and discard. So...
Wait. But then why did feminism become girl boss, I can sleep around
You know what?
because it got commodified.
It changed
and also,
over the
and it's also a reaction to the attitude you get from bro world, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, you don't own me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't own me. Remember that song?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
that's
thing is
fine.
that it's worth it to break open all these things, the
Yeah.
ones you agree with and the ones that you don't with, to see what the origins are,
Yeah.
and see that maybe this has gone away from its origins because it's been branded
Yeah.
and commodified, and now we're back to a capitalist idea of how life works.
And how a household, like, I mean, I was seeing that within millennials, there was a drop in physical labor of men.
Mm-hmm.
But we're starting to see an uptick now with Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
Very slight, because, and there's even proof, locally there's a university, far more women graduated with a higher education degree than men.
That's right.
Where are all the men? Where are all the young men? Maybe they're entering trades. Maybe they're entering...
No. They're on the video game.
What? They're trying to pay their bills through Twitch.
My son works for a tech corporation from home. It's not. He makes a lot of money. He can't afford to live.
Yeah, that's all of us right now. It's
Right.
There's graphs that. Well, that's what I'm praying that a more capitalist society will provide is your hard work will pay off.
No, it doesn't.
It has to.
No, it can't. And I'll
Especially
tell you,
if the pendulum is swinging back.
Okay, let's take housing. Let's take housing. Let's take housing for a second.
Okay.
Part of what makes real estate go is added value to property,
Okay.
right? How do you make money? If you're the bank and you're loaning money and you basically own the house, right?
Yeah.
How do you make money? You create a housing shortage. That's capitalism. That's when you're a monopoly, you can dictate what the prices are.
But in a thriving capitalistic community, there are several privately owned housing markets that can do whatever they want. And maybe some of them
No, but
have
some of
nice
them-
people in charge.
Google is buying housing in Venice. Big corporations are keeping the prices up high also by overpaying for things, and then you won't be able to afford it. It's an end stage of capitalism. And I'm not a communist. I'm just saying that if you start breaking open what's happening, if you read Karl Marx, for instance, and I'm not saying I'm a Marxist, I'm just saying I expose myself to these things to see what end state is. The end state of Marx is not communism. It's not communism. It's something else, something new. But the end state of capitalism is exactly where we're at, where we have 4 tech companies that own the world.
What are they?
They're Google, they're Amazon,
I thought you were
they're
going to say
Facebook.
BlackRock.
Huh?
I thought you were going to say BlackRock.
BlackRock will probably become the security system that gets rid of, deports illegal aliens under Trump because the military won't do it.
But I thought the Trump administration didn't like BlackRock.
They don't.
Well, they'll find some private corporation that's willing to do it.
So you just think capitalists are evil?
I will say that it's a
Inherently evil?
No, I'm saying that that it's a system that doesn't take into consideration human needs.
Okay, well, I don't think like a welfare system like Medi-Cal necessarily takes in the accounts of real human needs either.
But it's better than that other system where you couldn't afford insurance.
But its solution is to get me codependent completely on some sort of pharmaceutical that is overpriced, and so now I rely on
Medi-Cal. That's a
Medi-Cal.
capitalist corporation, that prescription drug company that limits treatments for you because they need to sell their drugs is a capitalist entity.
But think about this, though. They decide what I need and what I don't need.
Absolutely.
So I don't want that. I don't want something like Medi-Cal deciding what they're going to cover and what they're not going to cover.
Here's what happens in Europe, all right? In Poland, in Sweden, in Norway. These are not communist countries. They're actually capitalist. No, they are capitalist countries. Now what they did was they took oil, for instance, energy, and they they have a relationship with the owners of that they pay back. Norway is now a very wealthy country. It was a very poor country. And because they are now producing oil, and it's a revenue stream that gets back to you individually, just like Alaska has something like that too, that everybody benefits from the growth of a private entity like the oil industry.
You mean they all get income as a nation from the oil that they're...
Yes, or education, or health.
So they get a check for just sitting there?
You know what they do, but it's a subsistence check. And people in Norway are very industrial. They work hard. They're not unemployed people sitting by the fishing hole grabbing things. They are engaged in survival. And when you have a competing economic entity, we were never a capitalist country straightforward. We did have things like Social Security, or that came up in the 40s, maybe after Franklin Roosevelt. And these became things that we depended on. We had a middle class that came into existence because we bought housing for returning veterans, and we gave them the GI Bill, a chance for them to enter that. And then we built the middle class because now suddenly our middle class was being educated to the same degree that our upper classes were. And we leveled the playing field for a long time. But we're not there anymore.
Ellie?
What do you want me to say?
Do you want to know your question?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions. A lot.
Okay, I'll stop going on these tangents. Message received. Okay. All right, go on. Seriously.
No, well... yeah.
Ellie, no, dead air. Come on, say something.
Okay, well, this is just weird to go from there to there.
Well, just jump. Do a bad
Whatever.
segue.
Just jump.
Whatever. Okay. No, I mean, we talked about it earlier. But I wanted to know how we touched on it a little bit earlier, and how was it Poland? How it's a little different over there because they're not used to expressing themselves as much.
Right.
And so I just wanted to know in different areas of Europe that you've been to, how is it different in comedy over there as opposed to here in America?
They do try to, like you said, just not talk about politics, to be very just silly. And what happens is that it ends up everybody's doing the same thing. In Norway, for instance, there's a word for being homogenous, to not standing out. And standing out is looked upon as a danger.
Really?
Or was. Not anymore. The younger people are going, wait, we want to do all this stuff.
Right, they're different.
Right. In Japan, the same thing. There's a cultural thing. If you stand out, you're doing something wrong. You're making other people look bad. Right. So if you aspire, things like that. So the Poland thing is more about occupation. They're a nation that was occupied by the Nazis in World War II and eliminated. Their cities were just destroyed. I mean, literally destroyed. And then they got rescued by the communists, right? By the Russians, that's a whole nother form of repression that has some of the same elements as fascism, is to get rid of dissenting voices. You need to have dissenting voices to grow. You need people to go, something's wrong here.
Right.
Something's wrong here. And to examine it from not an ideological standpoint, but from a regular human standpoint. Deconstructing, if this is the way it's supposed to be, but I see it practiced this way, that's where there's a relief that somebody recognizes that draws a laugh. But there's a discovery in that too. People that do comedy for a lifetime as an art are looking to grow themselves, to expand their understanding, their connection.
Right.
so forth and so
To
on.
grow as a human being.
I'm not going to go back and do the same thing I did 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
did a tap dance then. I'm done with the tap dance. I'm somewhere else now.
Right.
So same thing happens in all art, is that you're
Evolving.
You're evolving. It's got to be evolving. You cannot codify anything. You cannot. You have to keep on, because new things, challenges arise all
Right.
the time. New social constructs. I am concerned for my Gen Z brethren.
Okay.
And sisters and whatever. Because of technology,
Okay.
because of where we are in a culture where all institutions are disintegrating, whether they're connected to medieval times, or they're connected to the Industrial Revolution, or whether they're connected to any point in our thing where we needed a particular economic system to get through the next phase. Right. So if we lock ourselves into those old ideologies, or try to pull us back to times where the industries that we're talking about are no longer relevant, then we're not going to be ready for what happens.
Interesting.
We're
Okay.
not going to be able to improvise into a new set of arrangements.
Well, you know what? Something that I've seen obviously evolve is obviously comedy, like we've been talking
Yeah.
about. And, today with, Gen Z, there's people who will laugh about the most random things. Like, for example, there's this video of a bread falling over, but it's taking forever, just like right there, and then it falls over. And then that's funny. The funniest thing in the world. But it's so interesting how comedy has progressed. But, because I look back and I think of, shows like I Love Lucy. Very iconic. And it's a different style of comedy. And I just want to know how we've gone from there to now to, this sort of, I don't know what to call this sort of comedy over here.
Would it be boredom?
Maybe.
I mean, if you don't have that much exposure to tactile life, watching a piece of bread fall might be the highlight of your day. I don't know.
The highlight of your day.
It's I don't know. I haven't examined that. I know that when I teach Gen Z and I show them how to deconstruct,
Right.
that they instantly get better. So if I do a stand-up class and they tell me what they're interested in, and maybe they'll talk about falling bread, I'll start going, okay, what is the useful? What is the thing that enhances? What does
Anticipation.
Anticipation
of it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and so then I'd start breaking that down and find out what does that make obsolete. And again, human interaction comes into play.
Right.
There's all these.
It's funny that it has so many views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's funny.
Yeah.
But how did it get so many views in the first place? Just coincidence?
I mean,
Because you're looking for anything different, anything
Right.
Okay, novelty.
Novelty.
Non-novelty.
No, novelty.
No.
Next,
That's
it's going to
novel.
be a man.
No, but you know what? I think of the people who, the bread falling over isn't the most funniest thing I've seen. I love,
I wouldn't
watching.
think so.
I
No,
love
it's
those
not.
sim ones where it's like a real life video game. It's kind of becoming like a little old now. The joke's a little old now. But have you seen those where it's like a sim and they like walk like this and then they're
I've
like,
seen it.
say hi to friend.
Yeah. Well, there's also recognition and novelty, and that to me might represent how people feel their social lives are like.
Yeah, like bonding over Sims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just that interaction, walking by, hi friend,
Yeah.
bye. Right?
What are some of the major evolution points or the changes that we've seen throughout comedy throughout the years?
Well, there's I don't know how much has changed. There's a thing called Menippean satire.
Okay.
This is ancient satire, and it's satire based on not on people, but on behaviors.
Okay.
All right, which brings us right back to stand-up comedy. It brings us right back. So there's not a whole lot that has changed. I make people, listen, I'm 72 and I make people laugh. I go into stand-up clubs and, maybe the first thing I say is different because everybody's at 30 years younger than me or more. I might start off my stand-up act by going, I'm not really a comic. Your parents sent me here to find out what the fuck you're up to. And they'll get a big laugh. It breaks the ice, right? Now I can move because they go, okay, it's okay that the 72-year-old guy is talking to me.
Right.
But I also exist in their cultures. So I talk about video games.
Right.
I used to work for Activision and other... So, and I can deconstruct that like nobody's business, right? I can talk about avatars and identity through video games. Like there's a game I play called Asheron's Call, no longer exists. Nobody will know what it is anymore. But I played for a while, got very good at it, and then I decided to change my avatar to a black avatar. And then suddenly I started to notice that all the other avatars that were hanging out with me now were black avatars. And then I wondered, how many of these black avatars are middle-aged white guys like me? But I also did the same thing with women. And then I had this, I had a female avatar, and suddenly people were running up to me in the game and offering to fulfill my quests for me. And I started thinking,
female privilege.
Is this ethical? Is this ethical? And I said, why not?
Yeah, video game rules. It's not real life.
Yeah. But
we're seeing that you can't get away with that in real life with the trans movement.
Well,
too far, Tara. Sorry. Okay.
I think that everybody's been sucked into that. It's not as big a problem as people claim that it is. And we've made it a bigger problem by the amount of focus, both positive and negative, that we put on it. There are trans people. There are a minority of people.
I think transing one child crossed the line.
What?
That's just weird. Why would anyone do that?
Why? No, most trans...
Sorry.
The first trans person was an adult, and he was a synthesizer player, a musician, person that scored movies. And the first one that I heard about, Christina Jorgensen, was an adult. Was probably 40 when they did that. So it was an adult decision by somebody that felt conflicted, and that's what he did. Nobody did that to Christina Jorgensen. So I don't think anybody's doing that to anybody. When Trump comes up and goes, they're changing your kids' sex at school, that's just crazy bullshit.
No, that happened to Chloe Cole. That literally happened to someone I know. She went to school and she came home trans?
No, that's what Trump is saying. He's saying your kid goes to school and you don't see them for the rest of the day. And when they come home, they're trans. And it's like, stop with that. So it's creating emotion, creating a resentment, emotion, anger off something that's not particularly real. And then now it becomes a political thing on both sides. It's sort of like, let's.
Nevertheless, you have people sitting on the streets defending it. So,
of course you do, but again, it's in that thing of tolerance isn't necessarily evil. It's the people that actually make that happen are capitalists. The people that actually will charge you money to have your sex changed, to do that, are selling something to someone who thinks that that's what they need. But also that pursuit of identity is also a part of it. The loss of identity is also a part of that thing. People trying to identify with something, and maybe for people in extreme turmoil, could be things at home, whatever it is, will go, oh, I think I'm a woman, or I think I'm a man, or I think this, or I feel this. Or maybe they have the hormones for it, if they do testing on it and go, boom, well, okay, this person does have a predominance of male hormones or female hormones. I don't know. So to me, it's not a thing that's evil or good or bad. It's something that's out there, might be temporary, might be, it could be that with all these people not having sex, the infertility things and stuff, that maybe through chemicals in our food or something else, that's what we're evolving into.
That's devolving.
Or devolving, whatever. So it's a thing it's something to examine, and you can find we used to have an exercise at Second City, which was a satirical comedy theater, that you take on the position of your enemy, or what you perceive as your enemy, and by trying to defend it to the best of your ability, you would find the flaws in it. It's what Colbert's original show, The Colbert Show, was.
That show was so funny.
Yes. But it was him taking on the guise of a right-winger, and not in a sarcastic way. He would really delve into it because he knows that in satire, if you start examining it and deconstructing it, you will find the flaws in the argument.
Yeah. Satire's great.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yes.
So,
well,
and I'm sorry that our maybe you wanted to talk about comedy all night, and we went other places. I don't know.
I'm sorry. It's the boba. I can't blame it. Okay, it was me. I'm a capitalist.
Is evolving. The elements of it are surprise, a discovery, and trying to find answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's techniques to it. Yeah. There's styles. There's ways to tell jokes that are ba-da-da, ba-da-da, da-da-da, right? There are rhythms to it as well. And those are things that comics practice.
Yeah.
Getting those rhythms, being able... I do improvised stand-up because I can talk like a stand-up. Mm-hmm. Right? I could set up my premise, bump, deconstruct, and find a punchline. Right?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So that thing I did as coming onto the stage was something I had to make up in that moment. I did a thing on identity a couple weeks ago on pronouns in Poland.
Yeah.
Where I said, I suppose the most important thing to you right now is to know what my pronoun is. I said, well, let's see. I'm just talking about me, it's I. If I'm talking about me, I had a different differentiation for I and me as pronouns, I and me. And I said, sometimes I use you when I'm talking to someone else. And I just went through those pronouns. And I did not attack that idea of people insisting on pronouns, because that's nonsense as well. Mm-hmm. But just the idea of what is a pronoun.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And what is a personal pronoun? And you can't get more personal than I or me. And it doesn't have to be a sexually related pronoun. I don't walk around thinking I'm a man.
Yeah.
I don't think
I'm man.
Yeah. I may have. I'm hetero. It's not my identity.
Yeah.
It's not my. Now maybe I've been privileged in the sense that. That I wasn't called. That I wasn't called gay or something like that, or treated badly because I was in school and people, that guy's gay or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's called gay.
Right? So I wasn't treated that way. So I can understand. I can understand why people would go. That's who I am, and start dealing with that. But even in that, ultimately, that for me, that person who I know, I don't identify them as their sexuality. Mm-hmm. I don't identify them as their gender. I identify them as a person.
Yeah, exactly.
And their name.
Exactly.
And what they. But if they ask me to call them something, why not? Why would I go? Oh no, I'm not going to do that. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And final question. I want to know, have you come across certain people who are your toughest crowds?
Drunks.
Drunks.
Really?
But I know how to deal with them.
Okay.
You put attention on them, right? So, or people that feel very, for instance, I could make a house of conservatives laugh by talking about them. It's harder for me to make a house of liberals laugh if I'm talking about them. Yeah. Right? Because generally...
conservatives can laugh at themselves.
Well, they laugh at what our conception of them are. And because somewhere they know it's partially true.
Yeah,
But for instance, if I did a show, it was for refugees, right? Starving in Africa, right? And so they showed this awful film, important. That's why they're there, to see these terrible things that were happening. And they go, and now for the comic stylings of the second city. And it's like, you're not going to bring that house back from that.
Right.
What if you can't? I mean, come on.
If I could.
Dave Chappelle made me laugh and a room full of people laugh about a school shooting. As awful as that sounds, he made a fun, like he was like just riffing on it.
Well, Dave Chappelle is a talented guy.
No, I mean, it's awful. Thinking of it in that sense is like, oh my gosh, that's terrible.
Yeah, but
why was I laughing?
Part of Chappelle's thing is to draw attention to the unspeakable. And he did that first with racism and stuff in his shows, right?
I love that show. I want to make a show like that. Like just so like off the cuff and was like.
So I have no problem with Chappelle or other comics that broach subjects like that. I think his focus is on pretense over true sensitivity.
Yeah, because when guys are like in the military, they're going through like some of the worst stuff. Like let's say they're out on a battlefield, their sensitivity is like up here. So it's like it's kind of like that. Dave Chappelle is like a soldier in a way.
But it's part of what why people come back with things like PTSD and stuff. Is because they have to remain in these heightened states. In Iraq, for instance, in Afghanistan, I knew people that were fed amphetamines all the time by the military to maintain that alertness. So trauma produces
anxiety, right?
Well, yeah, trauma is
the worst kind, the most. Yeah.
That's right, and that's when you get triggers off just hearing something. It's because you've been traumatized by something else.
Yeah.
Right? So what you're responding to sometimes has nothing to do with what you're the moment that you're hearing something. It's related to something that traumatically happened to you in the past, and it can shut you down. It can make you become unsocial. Trauma is probably, I would say, that the United States is traumatized.
Yeah.
Right? There's a there's a word, I forget the name of it, but I had a psychiatrist. I was interviewing a psychiatrist, and I said, how would you diagnose the American population? She said, I think it was hedonia. And it breaks down into not being able to feel pleasure, to be on your toes so much that you can't believe that something's pleasurable.
My generation is infused with way too much pleasure. Like, you have the highest rates of like porn and like drugs. Do you know how many people I know personally who died from fentanyl, who were like under 25? It's like, I feel like
we might say, oh, China did that, but no, American pharmaceutical companies did that.
I know a handful of them that were from local dealers that like were coming from.
Yeah, no, they were, but that addiction, the OxyContin and stuff, starts with pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then a lot. Actually, because a lot of them were drugged as middle schoolers. Yeah. Anyway, awful. But
kids in my age used to steal their mother's diet pills, which were basically amphetamines at that time.
Yeah. Huh. Well, it's gotten so much worse than diet pills. It's like, what? Oh my goodness.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what those did to you. Anyway, so are you ready to wrap up, Ellie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have to go to school tomorrow. So.
Yes, and I have to get home.
College is fun.
Yay!
Not fun.
No, that's good,
No,
dude. No, it's good. What? What do you mean? No, it's not.
It's not fun.
That's what? Come on, life is fun.
Yeah. If you live,
yes,
living is fun.
Yes,
living is fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Okay. Well, No.
I work tomorrow, but
Yeah.
It's
Everyone has
I like
stuff
it.
to do tomorrow, but yeah.
I like my job.
No, but thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Yes, thank you for joining us tonight. Really,
I know it was a
pleasure.
long drive for you, so
I'm
thank you.
sorry about that.
It'll be less back because there won't be the traffic. But
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I do want? Is there any way that people can find you on social media
Yeah.
or through website?
Yeah.
Wait, say it into the mic, Jeff.
Websites.
Like smooth jazz.
I'm on one called We Pollock.
WePollock.com.
Yes. And then I'm also on fanaticsalon.com, which is a theater that
Wonderful.
I my email's improvjeff at Gmail. I have films on YouTube. I have creative stuff on YouTube, both on Jeff Michalski and We Pollock. So a lot of my stuff is on We Pollock right now.
Okay.
What I'm doing, I'm going to Greece next month.
Ooh, safe traveling.
Athens.
That's wonderful.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you again. Did you enjoy your boba?
Yeah, I did. I'm not going to finish it. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Not okay.
No, it's okay.
Anyway.
It's okay. Well, yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Catch y'all later. Bye.
And you can find us on 180shift.org.
There you go.
Thanks.